Hi, Chris here from Joybilee. Thanks for checking out the Joybilee YouTube channel. This is an excerpt from my weekly podcast, the Thyme Roots Podcast. If you like what you hear, please like, share, comment, and subscribe. And don't forget to hit that notification bell so that you'll get notified whenever we post an episode. If you like what you hear and want to hear more, you can check out the Thyme Roots Podcast anywhere that you listen to podcasts. Thanks for listening. Well, the very first time we had a garden, I was reading a book, right? I learned so much from reading books. And I was reading a book and it said to garden, you had to get your seed, you had to double dig the ground. You don't have to do that. But we thought from reading the book that we had to do that. Now we know better. And so we put a lot of effort into preparing this little rectangle out in the middle of our grass. And I took a package of seed and it said on the seed it was cauliflower. I believed it was cauliflower. I trusted the seed company and I planted every single cauliflower seed into little 2-inch pots and I put them on a table in my spare bedroom in front of a sunny window and I grew these beautiful cauliflower. And then I transplanted them outside and I waited and I did everything right. I added organic fertilizer around the plants and I watched them grow and they grew big, big, big until they were about 1.5 feet across and probably 2 feet tall. And they had this beautiful reddish green ball. And I waited for the cauliflower to show up. I knew that cauliflower actually, the leaves would cover the head so you couldn't see the head. So these beautiful reddish green balls were covering the cauliflower, I thought. And I waited and nothing happened and the cauliflower didn't show up. So one day I had a friend come over and we were having coffee together and I asked her, so can you have a look at my cauliflower and tell me if you think it's ready to harvest? Because I was afraid of doing it wrong, right? And maybe opening a cauliflower and finding that I broke it. So she goes out and she looks at my garden and there was nothing else growing there. It was just one field of cauliflower. Nothing else, like no lettuce, no flowers, no herbs, just one thing. And she said to me, why don't you cut one open? So we did. I went in the house, got a big kitchen knife and came out and I hacked off the head and we cut it down the middle. And I found out that my cauliflower was red cabbage. Here's the problem. I think I grew 30 heads of red cabbage that were all ripe on the same day. And that's a problem because what do you do with 30 heads of red cabbage? I could make coleslaw with it, but red cabbage, that doesn't, I might have used 1/4 head for coleslaw. Cabbage rolls, yes. And I was inexperienced with using red cabbage. So you know what I ended up doing? I mean, I know that you can use it to make Easter egg dyes. It makes a beautiful blue on Easter eggs. We could have done some pH science fair experiments with it. I could have made sauerkraut. Purple sauerkraut, is that a thing? We could make pickled cabbage with it, or we could mix it in with rice. But ultimately, 30 heads of red cabbage was a bit much. And so I learned from that. I learned from that experience because what I ended up doing is cutting it all up and blanching it and putting it in my freezer. And then I still didn't know what to do with it in the freezer. So I ended up, I'm embarrassed to say this. I ended up 20 years later pitching it from my freezer into the compost. Yes, that's embarrassing. Okay, so what did I learn? So number one, when you're gardening, don't plant the whole package of seed at one time. Very important lesson. In the case of cabbage, I probably could have been very happy with just 6 heads of red cabbage. But remember, it was supposed to be cauliflower. I could probably have used 30 heads of cauliflower. I go through a lot of cauliflower, but red cabbage, not. The second lesson I learned was to make sure to ask somebody with more experience than I have for help. And my friend, I probably should have asked her right at the beginning, but I thought that I was smart and that I knew until I didn't know. And so sometimes you just don't know what questions to ask, right? And Then number 3, it's really important when you're gardening or growing anything to have a plan for what you're going to do with what you grow before you plant.